Hi, welcome to the Alex and Dom Show. Today I have a very special guest, AJ King from The Last Thursday Night, and Rumpelstiltskin, aka Roland, from the same show.
Hey, y'all.
How y'all doing?
All right, tell us about your podcast, man. Let the audience know where they can find you and what it's about.
Last Thursday Night is on Spotify. It's or really anywhere you can listen to it anywhere. Amazon. It's I don't know. It's hard to really describe. You've been on it.
It reminds me, kind of like a nostalgic feeling of the old Howard Stern show. Like, not the new stuff that's on Sirius XM, but the old bit that you watched as a kid on TV on the Entertainment E channel, just like that. And
Yeah,
Roland's your Robin.
Yeah, it's raw, it's real, and it's just a good time.
It's a lot of fun, you guys, but listener discretion is advised.
Yeah, it's a variety show, really.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, today we're going to be diving into the early life of O.J. Simpson, the man who started out as a youngster in a bad neighborhood and became a football legend, and became a very controversial figure later on in his life.
Yeah, OJ grew up in poverty, pretty much.
Yeah.
He lived in the ghetto, and like a lot of, I guess, black males growing up in the '60s or '50s and '60s,
Mm-hmm.
their way out, was sports.
Yeah.
And he wasn't just a footballer. He was a very good football player. He was he won the Heisman, I believe, and he went to like a USC or somewhere in California,
so, yeah.
One of those schools.
Yeah, we'll go through it. I have most of the stats here. But O.J. Simpson, a.k.a. The Juice, which is an amazing nickname, was born in 1947 in San Francisco's gritty Portillo Hill neighborhood. Very bad neighborhood. I guess bad.
Impoverished.
Yeah. He was raised by his mother, Eustace. O.J.'s childhood was far from glamorous. He battled rickets and wore leg braces until the age of 5. Do you know what rickets is?
I've heard the word.
Yeah, it's a deformity of your shin bones usually.
Wow.
Yeah. And gave him a distinctive bow-legged stance.
Yeah. His story, it's really kind of inspirational.
Absolutely.
He really overcame a lot. I guess you could say he lived the American dream.
Yeah. Until later in his life, he did live the American dream. If he would have came up, did everything, came in from the poverty, became a huge star, and then continued to do that and didn't do anything that controversial, he would be something to aspire to. But since we all know what happened.
Yeah, and he wasn't even done when his sports career ended. He was an actor. He was in a lot of movies too.
Yeah. I think Leslie Nelson's Naked Gun
Leslie
series?
Nielsen, yeah.
He was a big role in the first 2 or 3, I think, right?
Yeah.
He was Neudberg, right? Neudberg, right?
I haven't seen that movie in years,
Oh, okay.
but probably.
Yeah.
That sounds right.
So, with the odds stacked against him, OJ had a fire burning inside of him. He joined the gang called the Persian Warriors at just 13. So,
It's a great name.
Persian Warriors, I don't know, how active they are now, or if they even are now.
I've never heard of them.
Neither have I. Obviously, they're not big now, but I'm sure they were pretty big in that neighborhood back then.
Yeah, and he was the number one guy in there, the leader at one point, and I think that was before he was even 18.
Yeah,
He was still.
he moved up the ranks fast.
Yeah.
It's like
Very ambitious O.J. Simpson was.
Yeah.
Fast forward to college, where O.J. played for the USC Trojans. He was a force to be reckoned with, a running back who could slice through the defenses like a hot knife through butter. In 1968, he clinched a Heisman Trophy, solidifying his status as a football demigod. So, very impressive college career.
Yeah, he was the best.
Yeah. I mean, went from running the streets to, running the field, and succeeded in both, really.
Yeah.
Quite so.
Again, up to this point, perfect inspirational story.
Yeah.
Force to be reckoned with.
Yeah. Then came the NFL draft. The Buffalo Bills snagged him as the first overall pick in 1969. O.J. donned the iconic number 32 jersey and tore up the field. His legs churned, leaving defenders grasping at air. Over his 9 seasons with the Bills, he racked up 11,236 rushing yards and 61 touchdowns.
So you say he played for the Bills, so it's safe to say he never won a Super Bowl.
I don't think he did, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, but, I mean, still, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
I mean, 61 touchdowns, though, over 9 years? It seems like they get more touchdowns now.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I don't really follow sports anymore, but it seems like
I don't know. I just think after 9 years, he would have more touchdowns.
well, back then, like they played more defense. I think. I don't know.
Yeah.
Uh,
I don't know.
now
Well, they were
everyone's
rougher.
like,
I know they didn't hit and everything.
now everyone's
Shorter
like
back then,
padding their stats and fantasy football stuff like
Yeah.
that.
But O.J. was poetry in motion. His speed, agility, and sheer determination made him a household name. He danced through the defenses like a maestro conducting an orchestra. And those Pro Bowl selections, 5 consecutive ones from 72 to 76. So, I mean, obviously he was arguably the best running back of his time.
Safe to say.
Yeah.
Yeah. He won the Burt Bell Award, AP Athlete of the Year, and NFL Most Valuable Player, making him pretty much a gridiron god.
Like how many players like won the Heisman and were the MVP of the NFL? I don't think anybody else has done that. Not that I can think of. It's a pretty rare feat either way.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Did Tom Brady win the Heisman?
No, Tom Brady, I remember his lore is that he was like a backup in college. And he was drafted like in the 6th or 7th round.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah, and he was a nobody.
And then now he's the GOAT. But life isn't always touchdowns and glory for O.J. Simpson. His legacy took a dark turn. The infamous murder of his ex-wife, Nicole Brown, and her friend, Rod Goldman, cast a shadow over all of his achievements. And some say that he didn't do it. Others say that he did. He even wrote a book saying, I did it, but with a little if right before it.
Yeah.
And, I mean, if you wrote a book about it, you did it.
That just makes sense.
Either way,
Yeah.
it's kind of shit to like profit off of it either way.
Well, you can't. He didn't get the profits at all.
No?
No, Ron Goldman's family did. They sued him for it.
Ah.
Yeah.
Because he said, if I did it, and it was in bold letters, if. But because they won the case against him, he had to put it in little tiny red letters, if, and I did it.
What was like the contents of the book? Was it like a fiction or like?
It was basically a rundown of how he would have done it if he did it.
Yeah.
So I never read it because I already knew that he 90% did it.
Yeah, it's kind of piqued my interest, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So during this time, OJ was separated from Nicole. They were having problems. They weren't going to get back together. They were moving towards divorce fast.
Right.
If not filed for divorce. Mm-hmm. So she was at a restaurant with Ron Goldman and with another person who forgot their glasses.
It was her mom.
Yeah, her mom forgot her glasses. Mm-hmm. And she went back, and Ron Goldman walked to her door. And that's when they were brutally murdered. They were stabbed numerous times. It was Nicole being the most brutalized of the two. So that really points to a crime of passion. Someone who really hated her and wanted her to suffer.
Yeah.
And it's not that many people, like, that's not a random attack. That's not a stranger doing that. It's someone who's very close to you.
Yeah.
So, like I said, all evidence usually pointed, or mostly pointed to OJ, but there is a theory that it wasn't OJ.
His son?
His son. His son had a violent past. He was arrested for a knife crime before, and he was out around the same time. And the DNA in the hat that was recovered didn't conclusively point to OJ. So it could have had a familiar bond.
But that kind of begs the question, like, were they in cahoots, though?
The theory around that is OJ was covering for his son. He was protecting him because he didn't want him to go to jail.
Okay.
And this murder happened, I think, like several months after the Rodney King riots.
Right.
It was like right around that. So the LAPD was being scrutinized under a microscope at this time.
Yeah.
So they really had to handle this trial and this investigation delicately.
Yes.
Because of race being involved and just being a high profile case because it was O.J. Simpson, the juice. Everybody loved him.
Yeah, he was America's sweetheart.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm,
and I mean, he was booked for several movies at this time as well. And I mean, all of that gone because he couldn't allegedly see his wife without him.
Yeah. Yeah. What I get a kick out of is apparently when they called OJ and told him that his wife had died, instead of asking, "What? How'd she die?" He just said, "Who killed her?"
Yeah, that's an odd.
Yeah,
as anyone would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like, or because she could have died anyway.
Yeah,
I
it could have been an accident.
Could have been a money gone wrong.
Yeah, I don't automatically assume someone's been murdered. You know.
Yeah, like that kind of really was like, yeah, like,
red flag, like.
Yeah, I mean, she could have had an aneurysm. And they just found her in the morning, and they're just like, no, because he right there it just points that he knew that she was murdered. So, do you guys feel like it was his son? Do you think it was him, or maybe he hired someone to do it? Because that's another theory too, that he hired someone to kill her.
OJ definitely did it.
You think so?
Yeah.
I mean, they did find, which is circumstantial evidence at best, but they did find where he ran from the crime scene to his house because there was an eyewitness report saying that he'd seen OJ jump a fence or seen someone fitting description of OJ jump a fence and run to the house.
And then there was the blood on his Bronco.
Yeah. So,
like, to me, that was kind of just like the.
I bet he still could have ran really fast too, even though he was older.
Well, definitely, yeah. He was a all-star.
I mean, he wasn't really that old though. Like, if you think about it, because he went in.
Yeah, he was in
at like what
late 40s.
Yeah, like he was in his 40s. I think it was like 40, 42, because he just recently died.
Well, you say this is early 90s. He's born in 46, 47.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's like early 40s, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, not too... I mean, because when you think of NFL players, I mean, they look like they would be older, but, like, they're in their prime in their 20s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And after, like, they only play, like, he played 9 years. That right there just beat his body all to hell. And like you said, it was a rougher game back then.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, with him passing away, he refused to have his brain studied. Because a lot of times with dying athletes now, they're studying the brains.
CTE. Yeah,
for attacks of CTE, which leads to violent behavior, mostly suicide, but violent behavior as well. Chris Benoit, his brain had massive signs of CTE.
Aaron Hernandez?
Yeah, Aaron Hernandez as well, I think he was convicted for killing two people, but he was suspected of killing more.
Yeah.
So, he killed himself in jail so his wife could get benefits from the Patriots. But, no, I mean, it's a crazy situation. I think a lady or someone walking a dog is who found Nicole and Ron Goldman. So,
yeah.
I mean, usually dogs kind of sense something like that. Then they can smell it on us, and blood has a very distinct metallic smell.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what do you guys think was the most contributing factor to them leading to OJ? Because obviously, they found the scene, and it didn't take them long to go to OJ.
I would say the DNA evidence, because they tested the blood, all the blood spatter that was found at the scene and on the Bronco. And to me, that pretty much sealed the deal. They found the DNA that was pretty much pinpointed towards him and his ancestry and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. That really just made sense to me.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, DNA. This is the first case ever that DNA evidence was used.
Yes.
So, and it was still early in its time.
In its infancy.
Yeah. So, now, if they would have done this, I mean, it would have been case closed. Because the DNA evidence nowadays, the way they test stuff is literally there's no mistaking. If the DNA matches, you matched.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they'll go back in cold cases and find killers from the 70s.
Yeah, absolutely.
They just recently in the last few years, caught the Golden State Killer from DNA evidence. And it wasn't even his DNA. Well, they obviously tested his DNA, but they didn't catch him because of his DNA. It was a granddaughter of his that they caught him with.
Yeah.
He had familiar DNA that matched up to that because she did Ancestry.com per school. Boom. They caught him. So, I mean, you were catching...
Was he still alive?
Yeah.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's in jail. I mean, it's kind of too little too late, because he's an old-ass man, but, I mean, which the saddest thing for... let's play devil's advocate for OJ. Say that he did kill her and Ron Goldman.
Mm-hmm.
And it was either his son or he had nothing to do with it. Someone was framing him. So that's the saddest thing, I think, because there was no justice for Nicole or Ron. It was a very violent crime. I don't know if you've ever seen the crime scene photos, but it's horrific. It's a bloodbath.
Yeah.
And she was destroyed, brutalized.
Unrecognizable.
Yeah. And Ron was killed rather quickly. So obviously get the threat out of the way, which was technically a man.
Yeah.
So that points to a coward. Like the blitz attack coward, he waited until they were alone behind the building, basically, and killed him rather quickly. And then just, I wouldn't say took his time with Nicole, but it was probably a fast, furious attack. And, like, obviously, she, as small as she was, she had no, fighting chance, basically.
Yeah.
Especially if it was OJ. Like, there was no, like, he was a big man.
Yeah.
But if it wasn't, if it was his son was almost as big as him. Or if it was a hired killer, which I don't think that theory holds water. Because a hired killer is, like, efficient. Like, they'll send a message, but that message is very clear. Like, brutalizing her like that, I don't think a hired killer would have done that.
Yeah, that's very passionate. That's very personal. A hired assassin would not have gone that route. That's usually just a one-off kind of, sniper in the head kind of thing, and then done for. Yeah. And they probably would have left Ron out of it. Yeah. I mean...
Oh, they would have waited till she was alone. Like, there was no reason to kill Ron. She wasn't dating him.
Yeah.
Right.
According to sources. I mean, they were friends. I guess, like, someone on the outside, like maybe OJ, would see, like, oh, you're spending a lot of time with this guy. You're seeing him. And I think it was a confrontation between the two before this even happened about that.
Wasn't he actually gay? I could be wrong.
I don't think so. I think that was a rumor.
Okay.
I don't think he was. But, and, I mean... She had a restraining order against him and everything. So obviously there was something really going on.
Yeah, there was
wrong about that.
History of domestic violence.
Yes.
Bruises on her arm. I think that was for the reason why for the restraining order. But I mean, obviously, restraining orders are just that. They're a piece of paper. Like they don't protect you, really. And I think he did come up, if I'm not mistaken, I think he was escorted away by police for breaking the restraining order at one point.
Yeah.
And then a few weeks later, she was dead. So I think that maybe he was trying to reconcile with her. She, kind of like rejected him, and he just couldn't handle the rejection.
He just snapped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah.
So much because I'd seen that she was pretty much very done with him at that point, and he probably wasn't taking to that.
Yeah, here's a guy who really had it all.
Yeah.
But probably anything he wanted, he could have.
Yeah. And that dinner celebration that they had gone to that night, that was like one of the first family events that he wasn't invited to.
Yeah.
Yeah, feeling slighted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it
it sounds like that he did it. And the trial coming up was the trial of the century.
Yes.
I mean, it was... me and Dom were talking about Lizzie Borden.
Yeah.
Are you guys familiar with her? That was the trial of the century back in the 1800s. That was a huge spectacle. And it doesn't hold a candle to this trial coming up.
Yeah, even like pre-trial, this was all over television. Yeah. They were interrupting the chase in the Bronco.
Chase, yes.
That was... It doesn't matter what you're watching on TV.
Oh, it was
interrupted. Yeah.
They like sports games.
Yeah.
They literally would pause them to show the trial and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Which is
the chase. Let's talk about the chase real quick. Most people think that was actually OJ's Bronco.
No, it was his friends
friend Cato.
Cato,
yes. Which is... It's a pretty badass name. I'm not gonna lie. But, he was had a disguise, like a wig, and everything and his passport. He was going to the airport. He was running.
OJ, yeah.
Yeah, OJ was. Not Tato. He had a gun, and he was threatening. He wasn't threatening anyone else. He was going to kill himself.
Yeah, it was. It was also a note he wrote too. I think.
Yeah, he wrote a note
that was made people led to believe that he was suicidal.
Yeah.
Now, the disguise thing, though. Can you imagine him like at the airport? He's like the most recognizable guy in America, wearing like one of those cheesy
and
disguises.
It was like one of those ones that you would mustache. Like get from
big nose.
Acme, like in a cartoon. It's so
with
noticeably
the
them. Yeah. But he was trying to run.
I wish it got to that point. That would have just.
But obviously he was. That another thing that proves or points to being guilty was the running, the suicide attempt. I don't think he was going to commit suicide. I think it was more of a cry for attention. Like he knew he wanted sympathy.
Yeah,
but he wasn't like, oh, I did. But he was, because it wasn't Cato driving. It was his agent, I think. Or no, he was on the phone with the agent, and I think Cato was driving. And
was it? Did he tell anybody like where he might have been going?
He was going to the airport.
I mean, besides he had his passport.
I don't think so. No, he was just, and people were like, "Oh, it's high speed chase." It was not high speed. It was very slow speed. So L.A. I think it was like they only went like 35 miles per hour.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But do you know who was in the driveway when OJ pulled up to his house?
I do not.
Kurt Russell.
Wow.
Kurt Russell was watching the chase on TV and was like, he's going to his house, and then ran out of his house and was in the driveway when they pulled up.
It's an interesting tidbit there.
Yeah. It's weird. Like, you just, I think in some footage you can actually see him in the background. Kurt Russell, yeah. Just a young Kurt Russell going like, yeah, I'm part of history.
What's up, guys?
If I lived in the same neighborhood as OJ, I would go there.
Right? Yeah.
I was like, oh my god, this is the biggest thing that's ever happened in my entire life.
Yeah, I'd be like.
But
it's like Kurt Russell just turning into like just a everyday civilian.
Yeah. Just a looky-loo, just looking in like, what's going on over here?
Hey guys.
But during that conversation with his agent or Cato or whatever, he was like, I can't believe she's gone. He was basically alluding that he had killed her. Like, why did she leave? Why did she make me do this or whatever? Right. But he was basically trying to work himself up to kill himself. And, obviously, in my personal opinion, he has very narcissistic, tendencies.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
So he only thinks. So, with the suicide baiting, obviously, and it all points to that. I mean, who else would take a tragedy such as his ex-wife being murdered, and then making it all about themselves?
Right.
I mean, it just points to like, oh, I'm trying to cover up my blame.
Yep.
Or I'm trying to, distance myself from it. And I mean, I'm wondering because he did get in trouble. Obviously, had the murder trial. We all know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he didn't get in trouble or charged with the fleeing officers. Because it was a long chase. It was a couple hours.
Yeah.
So you would think, and also he got to the house, got out of the car, and went into his house.
Right.
So any other person at that time probably would have been shot or tackled or something.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, fame, and because of the Rodney King riots, they are being super cautious.
Definitely.
About everything. But, I mean, next episode we're going to get into the trial, the key players of the trial, and the outcome of it, and how it affects pop culture going forward.
Absolutely.
All right.
That trial, it's just so much. It's so much to talk about.
Yeah.
And I mean, definitely, like, if y'all haven't seen the trial, obviously some of my listeners are younger. They don't know about OJ or the trial and stuff, but go back on YouTube and watch it. It is like an entertaining trial. Like, it's one of the best trials to actually sit down and watch, other than Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. That trial was, I think that's the trial of the new century. Really.
Yeah.
Like, we had OJ in the 90s for the 20th century. And then the 21st century, we have Johnny Depp and Amber Heard.
Yeah, that's like real reality TV.
Yeah, it set the scene for reality TV.
And it is so much better when it's real.
Yeah, and then they made a documentary like right after that about Amber Heard and Johnny Depp.
I love it.
Yeah. So join us next time on the Alex and Dom Show. Thank you, AJ King, Roland. I appreciate you guys coming on, and we'll see everyone else.
All right.
On the next
Thanks for
episode.
having me, brother.
Good night.